Welcome, CEOs. I am Hermione Olivia, and I invite you to cherish every opportunity to connect the dots. CEO Yourself was created as a destination for motivation and to inspire you wherever you are on your journey to become the CEO of your life. Coming up on this week's episode of CEO Yourself.
I was 3. Had been in a long-term relationship, got the job at the law firm and just saw everything unfolding in an extremely predictable way and was like, get me out of here.
Monique Foy is the co-founder of chocolate and beverage wellness brand from Paris, Cosmic Dealer. In today's episode of CEO Yourself, we explore her CEO superpower, positive disruption. Monique, welcome to CEO Yourself.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
This is going to be the weirdest introduction ever for the listener because I was thinking about you in the shower this morning as I scraped my tongue, which we'll come back to. And I was thinking about how weirdly unsurprising it is that you now have a brand called Cosmic Dealer, because I've always been so obsessed with energy, and I was like your fangirl from the age of 12.
You literally just told me that I was the person most likely to become a lawyer at school.
Yeah, you were, because you were so smart.
No,
because at school, Monique was in the year above me, but we lived near each other, so we caught the ferry bus and train to school every day. And I was obsessed with you.
#schlep every day.
Such a schlep. No, but we were such good friends, and we used to get home from school and then talk on the phone for hours.
I agree. It was I think we've had a weird, cool, click connection.
Yeah.
Since day one.
And I really want to say to the people out there who then haven't spoken to that person for ages to message them, just get in contact with them, because we've had phases where we haven't spoken for years, and then
I was like, P.S. move to London.
Yeah.
See me.
Now you've moved here and I'm so thrilled about it. But welcome to CEO Yourself.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to deep dive your career, mostly because I'm such a fan of pivoting, which you are the queen of. So should we talk about that? You started as a lawyer.
Yes.
And then?
So studied law, but was always working at a fashion magazine during my law studies.
Oh, wow. Didn't know that.
Loved the contrast and definitely was craving a more creative outlet even while studying law, because just thought that was the safe thing to do. And that's why I went that path. It was really interesting, but I very quickly realized this is not for me. And so I was doing...
But you actually started practicing.
Yeah, I did a clerkship and was about to start as an associate at the same firm. And I said, look, guys, I didn't take a gap year. I'd love to just go and take a gap year. That was kind of a lie, but that's what I told them. And it was kind of pre-financial crisis and everything. And they were like, sure, we'll keep your job open for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
If you come back within 3 years, it's all good.
See, you must have been good. She's very humble.
I just hadn't really started yet. I mean, they saw me in a clerkship and nothing else. And I was like, okay, so that kind of took the risk piece out of it. And I had always been that kind of really annoying person at school that thought they were French, that just clearly had nothing to do with France, and I was this francophile.
You were fluent from a young age, though.
No, I'd just been on a couple of exchanges because I was obsessed with this country. I don't know why. And I wanted to go and work in fashion in Paris.
That's the chicest thing you could possibly do, really.
No, you're young, it's exciting. I was like, that's what I want to try and do. But I thought there's no way I'm going to kind of crack into that industry. I was kind of mad looking back to go. And I remember saying to my mum, look, I won't get a job in fashion. I'll just go for a year. I'll probably work in a chocolate shop and I'll come home, which is really fun because I really remember saying that. And today
you have
a chocolate brand. So it's really strange. And I remember her being very upset. I remember the moment I walked out and she was like, you're never coming home. And I said, Mom, come on.
I can see your sweet mother being so stressed about you leaving.
Yeah, it was not nice. But anyway, so went to Paris.
Did you just book a one-way ticket?
Yeah.
How old were you?
But I went on a working hholiday visa, so I only had 1 year.
Okay.
I was 3.
Nice.
Had been in a long-term relationship, got the job at the law firm and just saw everything unfolding in an extremely predictable way and was like, get me out of here. And got super lucky. Got a job at one of the big luxury groups that was very, essentially very corporate, because really a large group, and they'd kind of seen the big corporate law firm on my CV. And so that was just... I somehow got that job, and it was a nice transition into the world of sort of fashion and luxury, because it was a similar environment to what I was used to, even though I was kind of thrown in the deep end with the French language. And then loved it, went from there to a haute couture brand that was the real kind of introduction into fashion, because the luxury group was much more sort of high jewelry and watches and very sort of slow moving goods. And this was like real haute couture, crazy world of fashion. And then went from there into menswear. So each time, like I was interested in this industry, but I never kind of moved to a parallel similar competitor. I was in marketing because I wanted to explore the different sort of, you know, go from high jewelry to haute couture to menswear to, I like sort of always chopping and changing things and discovering new things. And also from a marketing perspective, it just kept getting more and more interesting as I moved down the price chain. Because, you know, from going from high jewelry, you're speaking to a very, 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 you know, select number of people. To haute couture, you widen that just slightly. And then going down into ready to wear. And then I got there and I thought, my God, if I could just work for like more of a consumer goods brand, and then you're talking to everyone and you can be much more scrappy and experimental with your marketing, because, you know, French fashion, even in ready to wear, you have to do things to such a high standard. There's no room for mistake. Everything has to be executed perfectly in luxury.
But such good training.
Yes, amazing to start there, and then just sort of like see what it's like as things get looser down the chain. And it's just so much cooler and more fun, for me at least, because you end up talking to a client who's more like yourself. And that in marketing is real, like the luxury is marketing to yourself is the easiest and most natural and the funnest thing to kind of do. And I'm not a haute couture client, so it was less sort of my jam. And so went from there into a DNVB skincare brand that was just launching. And even if these brands were sort of amazing in fashion, they were quite traditional in their marketing methods, and this was like purely digital at the forefront of what was being done in marketing. Very, very ambitious startup founded by a well-known entrepreneur, and I just thought, I want to sort of get my hands dirty in that and see what it's like, even though I'm not really a sort of beauty makeup fanatic. But I was launching my own brand at the same time. And I remember saying to this founder, I can't sign the exclusivity clause because I'm launching a tongue cleaning brand. And he just looked at me and he was like, okay, that's okay. We'll carve that out of the contract. And that was...
Can we give people context?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You've moved to Paris.
Yeah.
You've developed this incredible career, which, looking back and connecting the dots, has been so supportive of the journey to where you are now, although you could never have predicted it in reverse. How did the wellness journey happen alongside it? Because one would assume living in Paris, you were eating baguettes and croissants, not tongue scraping.
I was, and that was not really the croissants that were the problem, but it was so... You know, coming from Sydney, super outdoor lifestyle, we did yoga at school. Like one of our classes, we had a weekly yoga and meditation. So I'd been into this stuff from a very young age. And I was always kind of the person out of our friend group who would go to the weird event alone and try some new esoteric thing, or like get excited in the crusty organic old store when I found a new product or whatever. I loved that kind of thing. And so wellness had been part of my interests for a long time, and that was my context in which I grew up, was very sporty. And then moving to Paris, I mean, to an extremely urban environment where I couldn't locate the nearest tree, where, like, you know, I was working such long hours, there was no Deliveroo, and so I'd get out of work and either just everything would be closed, or there'd be like a late night tiny little shop open and I'd have biscuits at like midnight for dinner. And I just got into this, and I could see it happening from afar, but like I was so into my job and
you're on
excited
the right race
to be there. And yeah, exactly. And I just fell into it. And you know, my parents would, we'd speak weekly and they say, well, why don't you go for a run? Is there too much running traffic where you are? Because that's a thing. Like in the Sunshine Coast where they are at 6 a.m, there's too much running traffic. So you got to beat the running traffic. And I'm like, no, there's no running traffic. No one is doing exercise, you know.
People are smoking at 7
Yeah, yeah. So like there are cliches, but a lot of them are true. And especially at that time, which is now like 15 years ago, I remember my gym trialed a pre-work class. So all the classes are after work, but there's like nothing on before work, especially at that time. And they trialed a spin class at like 6:30 a.m. or something.
And it failed.
Well, it was me and the cleaning lady of the gym that turned up. And they only did one session. They cancelled it after. So it just became, so, you know, I did make those efforts in the beginning, and then it just all became too hard, and I fell into like.
Even in London, when I first moved here all those years ago, there was nothing. You couldn't get like a smoothie or a green juice. Now it's everywhere, of course. Yeah. But I remember also you would never see anyone wearing athleisure.
Really? I thought it'd always been a part of London, because London's like way ahead of France in that sense.
So much, because I used to go back to Sydney and be like, ants used to say, why are all these girls going to the gym? Because they would be wearing their athleisure just to like go to brunch.
You do not do that in France, yeah.
Now everyone does it here.
Yeah,
it's transformed.
That's interesting.
So you're riding the right wave.
Well, so at the time I then started a newsletter of like what's on in Paris in wellness, and I used to write it in English, so like super niche, because I was like, it's coming and there are cool things, but no media was talking about it, and I was like, I want a place to go and find what's on. And I think I'd heard if you don't start your like business before 30, it's dead in the water, you know. So I was like, quick, at 29, I was like, got to start a newsletter.
Not true.
Yes, it's totally not true. But that was kind of playing in the back of my mind. And I'd always wanted to start my own thing. And I used to have like a little business book of like bad business ideas that I'd keep. And then moving to Paris, it kind of set me back 10 years with the language and the visa and everything. And so it was about waiting for that right time. But I could see myself getting so addicted to sugar and not being able to do anything about it. And so at some point I was like, I started to see the health like effects. So hormones completely out of whack, sleep affected. I got rosacea like really badly, which I still have today, but I just try and manage it. But especially just on a day-to-day level, like I would be in meetings and do the like eye drop, head drop, falling asleep for a second in a meeting. And
which of course perpetuates the cycle, because then you have sugar to wake up.
And so at some point I was like, okay, stop. This is my body sending me all of these signs that this is no bueno. And so I booked myself a retreat, and I went on Ayurvedic yoga retreat. And that was kind of the first light bulb moment where I discovered this crazy, amazing world of Ayurveda, which at the time, so it's like 12 years ago, I'd been doing yoga for years and years and years, never really even heard of Ayurveda. And I learned so much at that retreat. I walked away, I was like smiling in the metro, which no one smiles in the metro. It's just something you don't do. I was so happy. I felt so amazing. And then, of course, like as those things do, that wore off after a little while. But I'd been there, like I'd reached that little peak. I'd opened that door. I knew what it was like to feel really well again just after 1 week where we didn't have sugar and we were doing all these amazing practices. And I was like, okay, I need to figure out how to get that back in a realistic way in my everyday life.
So let's go back to the point where you're saying that the clause has to be removed from your contract because you're starting a tongue cleaning brand to where you are today.
So I eventually then, it took me a few years, but I eventually got off sugar. And now I consider myself always like an ex-addict, but like a normal person, in inverted commas, as I can have a dessert, I can have a cookie, I can, you know, have a balanced
relationship with sugar.
Yeah, exactly, and not fall back in.
It's quite hard to avoid.
Well, and unless I push it too far, and then I will quickly fall back in to a hole and have to really make concerted effort to get out. But like normally I'm okay. So that's where I wanted to end up. It's not the sort of all or nothing.
I'm in the hole at the moment.
Okay, I can help you.
Yeah. You can give us some tips.
And so I wanted to, along that journey of quitting, I did a deep dive into Ayurveda. I studied it. I did my yoga teacher training. I did a breathwork training. I went like all in on the like weird and wonderful. And eventually over a few years got off it. And I just thought, okay, it coincided with, okay, I'm ready to do my own business. I'm absolutely passionate about wellness. And there's clearly a need here, especially in France, for something.
And then you said it was doing quite well at this point, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's still in its English niche.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the base that I used to then launch Cosmic Dealer. And so it was all those things come together, and I thought wellness is becoming a concept from a consumer point of view. Is there space for a multi-category wellness brand with all of the things that helped me quit sugar? And can I do it in a fun way that's not too like terracotta and boring, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And have a bit of fun with it so that me as a person and as a founder, I could, that it's a creative outlet as well. And so,
because the branding from the beginning was what set you apart. Like the tongue cleaner branding was just sensational.
Well, I knew if I was, so that was like the foundation, the why. And then the first tool that helped me quit sugar, the first little gateway, was the tongue cleaner.
Let's talk about tongue cleaning for a second.
Okay.
You tell I'm desperate to talk about tongue cleaning. Because tongue cleaning's changed my life. You obviously introduced me to it. I think you sent me a tongue cleaner, or I saw you post about it or whatever. And now I buy everyone tongue cleaners and I avidly clean my tongue. I just found out you can clean it morning and night.
You can.
But you're not really meant to, are you?
No, it's more of a morning ritual. Beneficial in the morning. We can dig into why. But if you smoke or you drink a lot, scrape into why. No, that doesn't work.
Honestly the most unattractive thing you could possibly do. But once you start, it's like if you don't, it's almost like you don't brush your teeth.
Yeah, I can't leave the house. I cannot leave the house. I've forgotten it a couple of times in the past 13 years when traveling, and I've desperately clawed around for a spoon. Spoons don't work. The edge is too thick. But I have to get that off. It's disgusting.
It is disgusting. What's the technical language behind it?
When you sleep at night, you get a dry mouth. A dry mouth is conditions in which bacteria proliferate. So that's why also smoking will cause an imbalance in bacteria in your oral microbiome, because you're drying out your mouth, and that leaves space for bacteria to grow basically. And so when we're sleeping, we have less saliva in our mouth, drier mouth, bacteria start to grow. It's either food stuff that's left in your mouth, it's kind of stuff coming up from your digestive tract, and basically you wake up in the morning and 80% of this bacteria is deposited on your tongue. And that's what morning breath is essentially. It's the smell, the gases of this bacteria. And so scraping your tongue will just in a simple sense, will improve your morning breath, right? Get rid of that yuckiness. But you push it further than that as it's an oral microbiome tool. So it's about keeping your mouth bacteria in check. But it relates to sugar in that what you scrape off in the morning is related to your diet, so that when you're eating a lot more sugar or drinking a lot more, because there's sugar in alcohol, etc. Sugar is like food for bacteria, right? So you will have a lot more bacteria that comes off. You'll have a lot more slime that comes off in the morning if you have an imbalanced diet in that sense. And so I would wake up in the morning, and so it was on this Ayurvedic retreat that I discovered this tongue cleaner, and the teacher said to us, if you take away one routine from this whole week and continue it, it has to be a tongue cleaner, because it will change your life. And so that's where the name of the product, A Tongue Cleaner Changed My Life, came from. And it was the only thing that I actually kept going from that in a consistent way. And what you scrape off, it changes, so that I would have a really bad sugar day.
It's like mucus.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It's like blowing your nose. Utterly revolting, but that was the most shocking thing for me when I first did it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize there was all this stuff on my tongue.
So when you think about it, you're sleeping and your body is actually working
and cleansing itself.
And cleansing itself. So when you wake up, if you think about so in Ayurveda, you talk about channels, the channels between your body and the outside world. So you've got or let's say the openings, like you've got your eyes, nose, mouth, ears, and like lower body stuff. I don't know how graphic we can get on this podcast. So, you need to wee, you need to blow your nose, you've got stuff in your eyes. It all needs to come out. But when you think about it, your mouth is like the biggest hole out of all of them. Like there is a lot of stuff to get out of there in the morning. Sorry, it's so gross. But most people like drink water and coffee and just ingest the slime back in.
Because the other thing is how where it's helped me the most is avoiding illness.
Exactly.
This is just extraordinary. Having little kids at school and nursery, obviously I was constantly sick. Now that I clean my tongue, I don't get sick as often. Or at all. If
you have a healthy, balanced oral microbiome, you're going to leave less space for viruses to be able to proliferate as well. You know what I mean? So like that viruses enter mouth, nose, eyes. If those channels are purified and in good health, you're going to have less viruses that can kind of latch on. And that's where in Ayurveda, so the mouth is just one of the channels, but it's recommended to like clean your eyes every morning. So you put a bit of filtered water in your hand and you blink into your hand. And that's one of my favorite rituals because it's super refreshing. It kind of it's uncomfortable when you do it, but then you feel so nice and refreshed
never cleaned my eyes
after.
In my life, ever.
And then you put almond oil in your nose to hydrate your like nasal cavities because if they're dry as well, viruses clutch on. So there's all this each channel has the little purification ritual in Ayurveda each morning.
So you start selling tongue cleaners.
Peddling tongue
in
cleaners.
In beautiful packaging called A Tongue Cleaner Changed My Life. I bet you had like global aspirations for this tongue cleaning business. But obviously, again, extremely niche. Mm-hmm. How did you get to where we are today, which I can't wait to open some of the chocolates?
So, yes, when I told my friends and family quitting job for a tongue cleaning business, you can imagine like the crickets that ensued.
So with whatever your idea is out there, go for it.
Exactly. That's the moral of the
story.
If you
have self-belief.
We still sell a ton of tongue cleaners.
Yeah, because
like it's
I also
crazy.
like to buy a new one every now and then too.
Yeah, I mean it lasts for life.
You're not meant to.
But no, I get it. So how do we go? The idea, as I said, was to create sort of this multi-category brand within a wellness framework and launching all these products that help me. And so I had and I still have like the old list. I've done about half of what's on there of like all the things that I wanted to launch. And then some of them got crossed off because I was like, I can't bring anything new to this. Like it has to be something optimized or new but something like the tongue cleaner, it's like, okay, well, it didn't exist really in the market yet in a premium version. It made sense for a lot of reasons, and I was so obsessed. I used to take it to like dinner parties and give them as presents, and then people would, before my brand, and then people would laugh and be like, you are so random, Monique. And then they'd call me back like 2 weeks later being like, actually, this is amazing. And so I just knew I was like the tongue cleaning chick, and I just knew that was what it had to be. But it was within this bigger purpose of this really helped me. It was 10 seconds every day of like a consciousness of shit, what am I putting in my body?
Quite extraordinary career journey.
Very, very strange.
Leaps and bounds from lawyer to high fashion.
Mm-hmm. You can imagine my old bosses.
Tongue cleaners. I can also imagine your parents.
Yes.
But
they have a hard time explaining, over lunch what I do. So the next product was incense, because I had found that shifting my morning, because when you're trying to quit sugar, so 3 of the big things are you want to avoid stress, being tired, and being hungry, because those 3 things, especially any combination of them, are just going to lead you straight to sugar. And I just found that rushing out and that rushed morning, when I put on like Indian chants and incense and had a breakfast full of protein, it would totally shift my day.
Isn't it amazing? Because even thinking about that, the rushing out at the door, immediately I'm like cappuccino and croissant, which is like my go-to, obviously. But when I think about the mornings where I take the time to meditate and the chanting and the incense, suddenly I think tea.
Yeah.
And like a healthy breakfast.
Well, because because
they're all triggers,
coffee is
right?
cortisol and stress.
Yeah, and they're all habits that are linked to the previous behavior.
Yeah. Yes, and that's where the stacking thing comes in. And so, like, I was like, okay, incense, everyone's into candles, but for me, incense is very powerful in sense of olfactive therapy. And in Ayurveda, they talk a lot about the fact that like our sense of smell is a sense that we've really forgotten, but when you awaken it, it's our most powerful sense. And so that was the second product. And then by the third product, I wanted to launch a cacao product because what had actually replaced the ritual of sugar for me was 100% cacao. And then sometimes 100% cacao with nut butter like smeared on top. And
because 100% is quite punchy.
Yeah.
Which of these is your favorite?
I'm like, it changes according to what I've overdosed on the previous month, but raspberry. I like raspberry. And so we launched this 100, and I was also doing a lot of cacao ceremonies at the time because they're just, if you haven't done a cacao ceremony, you haven't lived, and it needs to be done. Okay,
Can't wait to do one with you.
You need to, yeah. We do them now. I think we're going to do one soon.
The branding is so beautiful.
Thank you. Well, so I knew in terms of the branding, I knew like if it didn't look very different and weird.
I mean, delicious.
So we launched this 100% cacao. That's not the 100%. They're the nut butter chocolates. What we call our chakra chocolates. Thank you.
Which chakra is this?
That's abundance.
Oh, nice. Everyone needs a little abundance.
So basically we make each one with an energetic intention. So we made the first 7 flavors, the 7 chakras, and then we make each one after that. But we can get into that more after. So yeah, the chocolate came about, and
that is so delicious.
Do you like?
It actually
it's macadamia butter with 75% single origin dark chocolate sweetened with dates, but there's less than 2 grams of date sugar per snack. That's kind of the limit.
So delicious. I feel like I would be able to hit the sugar craving with this.
Well, that's the point, because to decrease sugar, you need to increase protein and good fat. And so we were like, so after that first 100%, that the reaction was so good too, and then the repeat order was like so low because people were like, no, this does not taste good. So the reaction to the launch was like, yes, we want to look at chocolate as cacao and go back to the original super plant that is cacao, because it is. It's just become this crappy industrial sugar-filled product in the last 100 years. And we want to look at it from a wellness frame and also a female frame. So in France, the chocolate industry is like very, very old school, very traditional, and very male dominated. So like females launching a chocolate brand that looks modern and that doesn't have a photo of the product on the front that has an energetic intention instead on the front was like, whoa, what the hell is going on? But that was a really positive reaction. But then the 100% was just way too hardcore. So that was me just in my own like little purist trip. And so the feedback was, yes, we want to do that, but make it something that still tastes indulgent. And I was almost like, okay, no, moving on to the next product.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was like, you can't, everything that is low in sugar or that's sugar reduced or whatever today equals ultra processed food with crappy industrial or like fake ingredients added. And so I was like, it's not possible to really create something that is completely natural, that's not ultra processed, that doesn't have high sugar or replacement sugars. But then I was like, actually, light bulb, nut butters, because nut butters bring a indulgent texture of creaminess without the sugar. They're completely natural, and they're high in protein and good fat.
So amazing.
So I was like,
so
okay,
Moorish.
Yeah. Well, I was like, if we can do that, we're creating a legitimately good product, because I absolutely like the thing I'm most against is the fake good and the fake marketing and the fake like filling it with sweeteners or whatever. And that's kind of how the chocolate came about. And when we did that, that's where I found my real product purpose. And then I was like, all the other accessories and the lifestyle products we have, yes, great, but they're just accessory pieces to what the main the main thing for me was, how do you replace that ritual of sugar with something else? And when we hit that, and when people started to like it, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to do food, because I want to be an alternative that you can eat when you're presented with only like crap in the supermarket. And so then we pivoted to really food focused. And so today, how I would describe, it started with an Ayurvedic tongue cleaner. How I would describe Cosmic Dealer today is completely different. It's, we make clean chocolate and beverage blends with less caffeine and less sugar and completely clean ingredients. And that's who we are today. And we still have the accessories that kind of make up that holistic lifestyle, but it's not our focus. So after the chocolates, we then moved on to the caffeine piece, because I was addicted to sugar. My partner was addicted to caffeine. And we were like, can we make coffee alternatives without caffeine? So that's where we are today.
So there's a long-winded answer too. Keep pivoting. And I'm such an advocate for this, because I think we're so often taught that success comes from like staying in the same lane, which it does in a lot of ways. But in actual fact, not only did you constantly pivot your career and try new things, which have now stacked to create the ultimate place that you needed to be in, but you've pivoted within the brand. So you've tried things that hasn't worked, this hasn't worked. You have spoken a lot about habit stacking, which you obviously do daily. Can you talk to the listener about how to habit stack?
I think it's, and what I think that we try and do at Cosmic is create goods that are gateways to wellness. And so it's about finding your gateway, in that I can tell someone how I habit stack, but if we're talking about more from a wellness perspective, you look at like let's go with the main areas. There's sleep, exercise, nutrition, and stress, let's say. And so within even that, one of them is going to be a gateway to another, depending on how you're going for, so if sleep is a particular problem for you, but maybe nutrition is the gateway into sleep, like having less caffeine or not eating a huge meal just before bed. And so it's about mapping out within the sort of like the big areas, okay, where are you having more trouble and what could be a gateway to that, instead of tackling everything at once, looking to that first tiny door that you can open, because at least that's how I work. I'm not going to change my life from one day to another. I did have a life-changing experience at that first retreat, and then it took me years to be able to integrate, that into my real life. And the first gateway was scraping my tongue. Who knew, But just focusing on those tiny little things, like putting on that music in the morning, burning the incense, awakening, sense of smell, that's going to have a knock-on effect. And I think it's really important to look at it that way, because especially within nutrition, it is the most, the thing I hear the most is it's so confusing. You can't do anything right. You hear something's good one day and then it's evil the next day. It's all too complicated. Let's just eat chips.
It's like milk at the moment.
Yeah. No,
we were talking about that the other day.
Oat milk and
don't have oat milk. Don't have coconut. Yeah. Don't have dairy.
Yeah. Don't have almond milk.
Just
exactly.
Run and hide.
Yeah. But, and I get that, but I don't think the answer is to then ignore everything. I think start small and get interested in one thing. And if you do get interested in milk, like go down a milk hole.
And make your own milk. Like you make your own milk, don't you?
Yeah. It's very nerdy. But then that's going to lead to another little door and another little door. And it's so funny because I see that with my partner who laughed when we tried to go to a vegan restaurant when we were first starting dating. He's going to kill me for this because he thinks he's like the origin of all wellness now. But like, I bought him a book. So we have this thing where we force each other to read a book that the other one has loved in the year.
Oh, wow.
And so I forced him to read this Peter Attia book called Outlive. And he's great at like sticking to things. And I'm not so great. I love sort of exploring and trying new things. And he's really good at being disciplined. And so he read this book and now he's like basically Brian Johnson. Like my cupboards are full of these weird, crazy supplements. Like
we go to Planet Organic, buy it all, bring it home, make one smoothie, and then just revert back to all of our practices with a cupboard full of like hundreds of pounds worth of crap.
That's more me. And it's funny.
You need one in the couple to be disciplined.
Yeah. It's nice to see. And so I've seen that with him, though. It's like this little, like, the book that's led to this, and if I had told him at the beginning, what you're eating is ultra-processed absolute crap, even though it says protein and no calories on it or whatever, he would have been like, what are you talking about? You can't, this is telling me it's good for me. So I just think start small and go from there.
Now let's deep dive your CEO superpower, positive disruption, which is actually quite apparent now that we've been on that journey of your career history. Talk to us about how and why you chose positive disruption, how you've applied it in your career.
So I think that challenging the status quo is super important always. And I've chosen sort of the food sector to focus on now with my work, but challenging it from a space of actual good intention. And that's where I think, firstly, I think there's a real need, because it's only been like 100 years that we've been eating this crap. Like, it's not too late to turn it around, And there are good reasons why we have, I don't know if they're good, but there are legitimate reasons why we've turned towards this absolutely, like, I consider it horrific way of eating, where, like 60 to 70% of what most people eat is ultra-processed food, and it's not actual real food. I consider it more like chemical substance than actual real food. There are reasons how we got there, but I think it is so important to at least try to provide alternatives. And to be really honest, I get really sad but also motivated when I go to like trade shows and I see these new brands come out. And it's like, we are at a point in time now where we have enough information about nutrition. Actually, like the field of nutrition and nutritional biochemistry, we kind of know not a lot, because it's really hard to study. So we're at, I think, the very beginning of that. But we know enough now to kind of know what's really bad and what's good. The middle is a little bit more grey. And there are these new brands coming out where it's like 0 sugar, and it's just replaced with like sugar alcohols and fake sweeteners and other like emulsifiers and stabilizers and colorings and and you've got like a 50 list, a list of 50 ingredients, and they're the new healthy snack alternative or something. And you're like, what is going on? Maybe they don't understand, and maybe they haven't sought that information, or maybe the intention is not good and it's not to help people eat more healthily. And so that's where coming back to doing something with an actual positive intention, and that's why we put like energetic intentions on the front of the chocolates. It's like, not because to many people that will just be woo-woo bullshit, but if you can look at something that you're about to eat, and instead of sort of mindlessly consuming it in 1 second and sit down and look and see that it says abundance, or see that it says awareness on the front, might that spark just the tiniest little thing in you? Or you see like love, and you're like, that brings a thought into your mind, and then that might be the next sort of that butterfly effect. And
habit stacking.
Yeah, it comes back, and it's like, how can we pass on that intention, and will our good intention then like keep going? And that's what I believe it does. And so we are disrupting in that we are, I've traveled all over France meeting producers, and we went to one not that long ago who was, quite a big one, but we were all already much bigger than his business. And so we would have been a very big client for him. And he said, great. He was of another generation and was not our target client. It's not who we most easily speak to. And so didn't really get it, but was like, yeah, okay. We gave him the recipes, he did the samples, sent them back, and they had so we worked to under 2 grams of sugar per snack, whereas I think these had like 25 grams. And I was like, he obviously, someone who has quite a bit of ego and everything. I was like, they're fantastic. They're great. Thank you so much. But so, we have a lot of athletes and diabetics and, people who, and the packaging's already printed with the sugar content. Like, we need to stick to the current sugar content. No, never work. No, door in the face. No way am I producing that. And like, he's like, you'll have no market. We're like, but we already have it.
Yeah.
And he was like, there's no way I'm doing that. Goodbye. And it's been so
it's
hard.
A bit of an uphill battle.
It's
disruption.
Even to get the chocolate without emulsifiers in it that's organic, good luck to you. Like, we can't, I mean, at the moment we're like desperately seeking suppliers if anyone is listening. Like, the organic sector is become much more challenging, and doing that without refined sugar and without emulsifiers and stabilizers and is just like.
So what's your advice to the listener then that has a business or has a business idea that is disruptive and is going to be hard, as to how you can stick at it?
Well, that's how you're going. That's how you survive. That's how you
just keep going.
Yeah. Like, I shouldn't say this, but my password is like, keep going, something. I'll tell you the full password. But because that is why you're doing what you're doing. This is why, there are days when I'm like, my God, if we just made a sugary chocolate, my life would be so much easier. Yeah. But then and that's where coming back to like, what is the why and what is the purpose behind everything. And I think that there are two types of entrepreneurs, at least what I've seen. There are obviously many shades, but like, there are the people obsessed with product that have either, made a product or come across a product or just have this incessant need to share the version of their product and are so passionate about it and are really driven by that. But that might not necessarily then have the business acumen to actually make it work or to make it work long term. And then there are like the people who know how to make the algorithm of a business work or have like tapped into the secret of like the meta ads or whatever and just will launch it with whatever product.
Which doesn't have staying power.
No, but you need both.
You do need both. You do need both. But I would say the most successful women that I meet and who come on this podcast are product first. Yeah. And it's sincere and authentic, whatever the category is. They genuinely love that product and believe in it. And then everything else is an add-on that works around it.
Yeah. Yeah. But you got to be careful because you need to find you need to either learn it yourself or find someone that can help you with the other part.
Now, I could keep talking to you for hours, but we've already hit time, if you can believe it. I have all these other questions, but my primary question for you that I think with everything you've shared today is, what is the biggest learning you've had along the way with all of this pivot and change and growth and, redirection? What have you learnt that you wish you knew when you were younger, or that could help the listener who is considering pivoting or quitting their job or changing direction?
Oh, we could go on for another half an hour. I think if it's someone who is considering, the changing direction, I've seen, compared to people that I work with, even in Cosmic or in other brands, I've seen the difference between having that real purpose, because I was addicted to sugar and I can tap into that very strong emotion of like losing all control of what I was eating and just feeling so unwell. And that's what will pull me over the line of sticking with the hard decision to not put the crap in it. So it's finding
your why.
It is, but it's like, I know that's not easy. It's finding the why and then finding that it's really that superpower of what is going to set you apart from actually the millions of other people who are launching brands. If it's a brand, it's become very democratized. It's become relatively easy compared to before to launch a consumer product or a brand, etc. And if you don't have an audience that's already created, or you don't have an in to all the retailers, or you don't have, maybe you're a graphic designer yourself, so you don't have to pay, a graphic designer to do all that heavy legwork in the beginning, or that you need some, I would say, find that superpower or that edge that is going to really help you up, because I'm not gonna, like, it's really difficult in the beginning.
And what's going to set you apart? That's what's amazing about even the tongue cleaner. It's obviously niche and we can laugh about it, but you kind of owned the market from the get-go because there weren't really any competitors.
Yeah. Well,
unless you went to, like, you know, the weird yoga studio or Ayurvedic retreat.
Exactly. That's what I knew. I knew I don't have any, but I launched it with 500 euros. I was like, I don't have any budget and any experience. I just have a love for tongue cleaning. And the fact that I've managed to get off sugar and this desire to share.
And you are never sick, by the way.
There's that.
Never sick from the tongue cleaning.
Exactly.
We always close with the same question, which is, what is your legacy piece of advice? So that's the piece of advice you'd want to be remembered by. I know you're not really an advice giver, so that's a hard question.
I would say, and because I always lead by generosity of spirit. And that comes back to the intention that we put in the products. It's like, if you might not be able to be generous with your money, even with your time, because we're all run off. If you can be generous with your spirit and your intention, I do feel there is a knock-on effect of that goes very far.
And there you go, perfectly completing the circle with me knowing as a young girl how amazing your energy was. Where can the listener find you and Cosmic Dealer?
So getcosmicdealer.com.
Oh, nice.
Instagram Cosmic Dealer, and then in UK, so we're just launching
into
here.
Selfridges.
Yes, we sold out though, so don't go there now.
That's amazing.
We sold out in 5 days. We couldn't even finish the animation that we were doing.
That's amazing.
Which is good and bad, but good, mostly good.
And Planet Organic.
So Planet Organic, Selfridges soon when they restock. Zap, we've just launched with a couple of products.
Oh, yeah,
and then,
I saw you on Zap.
Yeah, I'm going to launch more soon. And then Health online in the UK, HEALF is a really cool retailer as well.
Nice.
And then some independents.
And on Instagram?
Cosmic Dealer.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We'll have to do a part 2.
Yeah, I'm frustrated. Need more. Let's chat more.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen today. Giving us a moment of your time to like, rate, or follow CEO Yourself will make a huge difference to our future.